Hey, hello everyone, and welcome once again to your afternoon, evening, or morning tea or coffee. Or today we're doing a green drink, a thing with a whole bunch of stuff in it, because it's been actually not my morning anymore, really, because we turned our clocks back yesterday or this morning, and I was up very early. My body didn't say, my body isn't paying any attention to the clock, so welcome all. Welcome. I didn't plan anything to say. Today I had a whole bunch of different ideas that came. But I saw Rosario left a message an hour ago. And he had actually left me a question that I think I can go off on for a little bit here. Hello, Rosario, in Madrid. She said, hello, GP and everyone. The mortal Dana Spain is suffering, needs the light of all of you, helping people to get through the chaos we're living in. Could you please join us? Of course, whatever it is that whatever it is that comes into your consciousness becomes free rein for you to work with, to see it in its true light. And what is its true light? Everything. No matter how it appears to our senses and to even our sensibilities, is always a manifestation of consciousness. It's not an absolute physical objective condition. And recognizing that, we have to start with our own subjective notions as to how things should be. Now this can get very difficult, because what do you do when you have to consider all of the brutality and stupidity and cruelty and greed that's going on in the world, and not getting any smaller? It seems to be growing and festering like a virus. How do you possibly reconcile that with the purity of the values of love and compassion and wisdom? Well, we can spend our whole lives trying to fight against circumstances, no matter what they happen to be, no matter where they happen to be arising. Or we can at least start by addressing within ourselves our own subjective view of things, offering it up, like a sacrifice to the gods. So you know what, I really don't know what's happening. Maybe there's something really wonderful afoot here that requires this. And that's hard for us to accept. But the fact is, if I look at my own life, and I look back at all the various incidents and things that I've gone through, and the difficulties, I have to say, at the time, I said, I am cursed by the gods. I am damned. I must have done something horrible in a past life. But the fact of the matter is, when I look at where it has brought me, to the spiritual insight, to the deepest and truest teachings that humanity has, how can I possibly be anything other than grateful for it? The turmoil that our world is going through, that we experience, remember, is subjective. Not everybody experiences it in the same way that you do. Not everybody reacts to it in the same way that you do. Not everybody is affected in the same way that you are. But if we recognize that, first and foremost, we have a responsibility to clean our own consciousness, our own sense of what reality is and what's happening and who's doing what to who. It's really easy for us to divide the world into good guys and bad guys. And all we have to do is round up all the bad guys, drop them to the bottom of the ocean, or send them off in one of those, stupid spaceships that they all love to build. Send them all off, right? Here, go, Moon, Mars, I don't care, here, just go. And then it would all be solved. But but the truth is, there is a streak of this selfishness, this greed, this egotism and arrogance within all of us. And it behooves us to address it first in ourselves. As Christ said, cast out the log that's in your eye before you try to take out the sliver that's in your brother's eye. I have to always get back to the same thing, and that is love. How can I, within the large scheme of things, looking around the world, I am absolutely powerless. Absolutely powerless. Nothing I can do. But I can love. I can cultivate within myself an unconditional love. I can reach out to the truths, to the reality that is love, and give it permission to shine through this human life in whatever way it can. So what else is going to turn the tide on humanity? It's not going to be a better political system or a better economic system or whoever happens to be elected. Have an effect, a ripple. What's going to actually turn the tide? It is going to be this an embrace, a universal embrace of love as the fundamental principle. And where does that start? I mean, can you advertise that? We hold a rally. It's got to be lived. If it's lived, it becomes powerful. If it's theoretical, it becomes just another idea. People love to talk about love. Love your enemies, for the most part, right? Unless they're bad, then you get rid of them. But to really cultivate it, for real, with a whole heart. How do I become the image of unconditional love to the point where I impute guilt, evil, to anyone? I do not do that. I do not impute it to anyone. I find everyone innocent. That may seem like a big challenge, and it is for our minds, because our minds have to divide things up. But if we can recognize within our own hearts our highest ideal of love, well, there's nothing more you can do. There's nothing more I can do. And let that have its effect. And it will. Just to pick up the second part of your question there, Rosario. GP, if our body and the universe is made of the same stuff, has the mental state of humanity anything to do with the weather phenomena? Of course it does. Yeah. It is all the atmosphere of consciousness. But don't turn it into a mental state. It's far, far deeper than that. The weather, the earth, all of it is being shaped by the, how do I say this? In my personal life, when I look at my own personal life and the experiences I've had, that the moments that were the most difficult, the moments I thought everything was against me, was me clinging to my egoic identity. Me clinging to who I thought I was, how I was supposed to be, the things I was supposed to have, the life I was supposed to be living. All egoistic desires. And it brought my life numerous times into chaos, into failure, into losing it all. Into what looked gloomy, quite gloomy and dark. But that's not what was happening. The squeeze was getting put on by truth, by love, by God, if you will, for me to wake up. I look around and I see exactly the same process in the world. And it affects the earth, it affects the plants, the animals, the weather, the cloud, everything. Because it's all one consciousness. But this consciousness is serving. It's not just the mental state of a bunch of people and we're going to change our thinking and the world's going to go the way we want it to be. That is just more of the same egoism that's created all this in the first place. At the root of consciousness is the reality of love. And no matter what it seems like on the surface, all the events going on in the world are serving that end. The awakening of humanity. And just like it had to be disaster and difficulty and struggle and deception and being having things stolen from me and people getting credit for my work, and the list goes on and on and on. That's what it took, and if that's what it takes, well, so be it. Not my will, but thine be done. Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. I'd rather not have it. But not my will, but thine be done. That's the humility of the human heart as it becomes willing to let go of its egoic sense of what it thinks things should be. And this is what we're all charged to do. That doesn't mean you don't participate, I voted for the best of the choices that were given, right? And there were none given that would be to my liking. Right? But I recognize that all of this is just part of, call it God's play. And by play, I don't mean like a little kid playing. I mean more like a Shakespeare tragedy where the last scene, the stage is littered with bodies. It just reinforces, I hope, to those of you who are on this path, the significance and importance and even urgency to wake up. Come to know who you are. Make it the most important thing in your life. Not that other things aren't important, family and our work and the things we're doing and participating in whatever it is you participate. They're all important, but not as important. And when you set that level of spiritual freedom and awakening as the number one priority, it will organize all the rest, make them fit in, and make sense that they would never be made sense of any other way. So I hope, certainly wasn't planning on talking about that today, but there it was. So, just let me know what you think. Moving or useful to anyone. Namaste to you, Ava. Present here. Greetings and love to all. Thanks for reminding me about the time change. Hi, everyone from Granada. This is Roberto, heading to Valencia tomorrow, where they had the terrible floods a few days ago. Can't stop feeling the people's pain and all the emotions involved. They have nothing left. Yes. Well, this is, thank God, there are people who have empathy that feel that way, who aren't just doing the actuarial tables from some insurance company that's going to figure out how much they're going to lose and how it's going to affect their stock prices. Thank God there's people who actually care. That love that you're feeling has a powerful effect. Just don't let it be angry at anyone, certainly not at God or the universe for creating these things. Don't let it be angry as, if the rescue takes too long, or the relief isn't coming, or there's some political haggling going on as a result of it. Don't get angry at them. Allow yourself to feel that pain and feel that emotion, and let yourself be with that. Looking at it as the right way that a human being should feel, but not the ultimate. Things like this are very, very difficult when we feel powerless. But don't feel powerless, because you're not. This is more than, get them thoughts and prayers. It's not that kind of weak, candy-assed kind of approach. It is a real powerful willingness to be present with the most difficult things in human life, with compassion and love, and not be pulled into the drama of it. That point, that perspective, you're looking at it now as God would see it. Completely aware, completely feeling the entire thing. But knowing full well that everything has to unfold in its own way. Not just God's supposed to reach. People say, well, why is God doing these things? It's not. It's not. We are experiencing the consequences of our own ideas and beliefs and actions, going back millennia. If we can see it like that, you're not a victim anymore. If this is happening to me, I'm a victim. This is terrible. Why is God doing this stuff? If this is all just the momentum of lifetimes and thousands of years of heading in a particular direction, then we can say, my God, I created this. I didn't realize the impact of what I was doing. This works on an individual life, and it works on a global scale. We reap what we sow. And that's the whole meaning of karma and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean it's a life sentence. It means it's an energy that has to fulfill itself. Our job is to make sure that that energy is transformed into love rather than into more of the same. So allow yourself to feel both the helplessness, there's nothing I personally can do, but the willingness to be present with the pain and the difficulties, with an individual or with a country or with part of the country, with the whole world, with the environment. Even though, there's nothing you can do. But that presence isn't personal. That presence and willingness to be present is divine. That is the presence of God. That's the true miracle. So be that presence, no matter where you are. Hello, Mary. Good to see you. We said floods in Poland 4 to 5 weeks ago, and later other countries. Many people are left without nothing in a few hours. My prayers for the whole world, Spain and Poland included. Yeah, well, prayers for the world. They're not ineffectual. But the prayer has to be, not my will, but thine be done. Lord, purge me of ego, merge me with you. Merge me with the ultimate. Empower me. in whatever way I can be empowered. Don't let me fall into anger or bitterness or resentment. Don't let me criticize. Let me be a beacon of light that will shine. It was so nice to have such music at the beginning of tea. You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. You guys hearing static? It better not be the case, because I invested in a whole new of everything. I got a whole new set of these because the others were giving me static. Let me go down the bottom. Buzzing. There was some buzzing in the beginning. Stopped a little bit ago. Ugh. You know, electronics are frustrating. I think I have the hang of it by now. David Yeager, good to see you. Good to see you. So nice to have such music at the beginning. Glad you liked it. Hello, Ida. Hello, Dazo. It's Melissa. The buzzing. Wow. You know what? It could have been interference from it was really been a bit cold here, and I had a little space heater going that I turned off. I wonder if that was it. Anyway, static is gone now, right? So, hello, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, good to see you. Hendrik, Jennifer, hello to you. Sylvia, Rosario. Thank you, GP, for your love and the truth of your words. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Sylvia says, I know people from Valencia. Glad they're okay, but it has been a disaster. Yeah, we had a hurricane. Florida had a hurricane here in the U.S. Last week. One of my students was severely affected by it for a while. Yeah, it's a big calling. You know, to truly be true to this path of the deepest spiritual inquiry for the benefit of all mankind, right? The Bodhisattva does not seek enlightenment for themselves just to have an easy time of it. They seek it for the benefit of all mankind. We seek awakening not just because we want to get out of our problems, but because we want the answer to suffering. Jacqueline said, I needed to hear all of this today. Thank you. You're welcome. Hope we could hear it through the buzzing. Jennifer, I just watched something that said God has a limited language. Yes, I am healthy, happy, blessed one, etc. Little yes. God's language is infinite and unrestricted. Our egos say, oh, it's all about healthy, happy, blessed one, and all of that, right? Can't. It's all here. It's all God. It's all God. There's no life without duality. I just heard a quote from Nisargadatta as I was working out in the gym this morning, and he said, above the unity of being, there's the unity of love. Love is the meaning and purpose of duality. This is coming from one of the greatest non-dual teachers ever. Love is the meaning and purpose of duality. Ponder that. We have to have the opposites to have the possibility to express love. Have to. There's no other way. So, God's language is not limited to anything, certainly not to words. Matter of fact, words can't even come close. God is beyond all words. beyond all concepts, beyond all categorizations, beyond all any capacity to conceive her, him, it. Completely beyond everything, beyond all opposites. That which is aware of all opposites. So everything expresses that. The computer screen you're looking at is God. The trees, it's easy to see that in nature, the hand of God, but it is the very presence of God. It is not God made these. That's very much the Western view. That God as creator made all this stuff separate. Right? It isn't any more than the sun is making the sunbeam and then sending it on its way. It is a constant emanation of the sun. And in every sunbeam, you see the sun, an aspect of the sun, unique to that sunbeam. Every person you meet, every experience you have, every animal, every plant, every insect is the self, is God, is the very presence of it. Even when the mosquito bites you, or the spider bites you, it is the presence of God. If we can see this, the self in absolutely everything, then we'll see what Nirsigadatta means. Love is the meaning and purpose of duality. How else could it be expressed? How else? Love in and of itself is beyond all the opposites. It is like the principle of being. But how would it be manifest if there was not a duality for it to be expressed? It's like saying, what would music be without a song? Meaningless, empty, completely empty, rather than empty and full and beyond both. So God's language is the universe. This is the language of the self. It is nothing but the self manifesting everywhere, saying, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. Every form you see, every form that's ever been, every form that ever will be, is nothing but the self saying, I am. It's not an act of will, it's simply the nature. Like the nature of the sun is to shine. The nature of the self is to manifest as form. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness, and God is beyond even that. So, another sip and I'll leave it at that, Jennifer. Your life is the language of God. Right now, the one you're living right now. Not one later, after you've checked things off the list and now you're enlightened. Right? No. Throw that aside. Right now. This is God. God's language. God's self-expression. Jennifer. The Jennifer you know. Even the one that had all the problems, it's the expression of the Lord. There's only one being. So there's only one seeing, one knowing, one feeling, one experiencing. Carl, when you spoke of the chaos in the world and the hopelessness we feel, it reminds me of the hopelessness I felt as a child in my smaller world in chaos. But now I can treat it differently. Thank you, G. Perfect. Yes, beautiful. Yeah, it's the same, isn't it? Look around. It's the same. And the only reason it's happening is because we're ready for it. We're ready to let go, even more than we ever have. More deeply than we ever have. Really allowing those who are on this path to say, I give it all. Now look, God doesn't need anything. He has all the chips. Sorry, right? There's nothing you can give, right? Except yourself. give myself. This is the deeper meaning of Christ on the cross. I give myself. I voluntarily give myself up. And it may not have ever actually even happened as a real event. Scholars believe that it did. There seems to be enough evidence that it happened to somebody, right? Because that's what they did. They crucified political dissidents. Anybody who looked like it could be any kind of a threat to the absolute authority of Rome. And it was a public display. Right? They didn't get taken down and put in a nice tomb. They were left there as a deterrent. So whether the man we come to know as Jesus actually did that or not, the image of it is a very ancient image of the cross and the king, even king of the Jews, right? Because in the ancient, going way back, the archetypes, it's the quartering of the universe into active and passive principles, the past, the present, the divine, the overworld, the underworld, and right smack dab in the middle of it is the king, is the archetype of the king, who brings order and peace to the entire thing. It's also representative of the chakras, the three lower chakras being the animal instincts, the upper being our divine aspirations, and right smack dab in the middle is the heart, the crossover point between all of those. It is a symbol, a myth, to represent exactly what we are all going through, what we've gone through in our lives as individuals, and what the whole world is going through now. Human consciousness itself. And our job, participating in it, is to be willing to say, not my will, but thy be done. Into thy hands I commit my spirit. It is finished. The willingness to do that, it's what we're being called to do. And the only reason we don't is because some little part of us still thinks there's some little benefit I'm going to get by clinging to this sense of self, the ego, all of that. Somehow my fantasies of what life is supposed to be are going to get fulfilled in some way. That's what we hold on to. At some point we will all be convinced there's nothing there to get. It's a it's a paper moon, a cardboard sky. There's nothing there to get. It's empty because it constantly comes and goes. It's elusive because it's a mirage in the desert. The payoff of materialism and the way the world has been heading is a mirage in the desert. It doesn't matter how fast you run, how far, how long, it will always be the same distance away because there's no water there. It's an illusion. At that point, letting go of all of those ambitions and desires becomes relief. Oh my goodness. It's a desire for nothing. But it behooves us to inquire into it. Is there a payoff? Is there a payoff in any of the things in life that I've pursued that has stuck around, that hasn't just vaporized, gone somewhere else? This is the nature of all things. It is temporary. It's unstable. It can't be trusted. Yeah, enough on that. Let me press on here a little bit. A little buzzing on and off. That's still happening. Buzz, 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 buzz. Still happening. I don't know. Yes, it's true. What I took from it was what I am says. It's always yes. But no, sometimes it says no. Not this, not that. The the nitty-netty of self-inquiry. I am not this. discerning. So on one hand, the self is everything, but our path, this path, is to recognize that and to let go of our identification with the form. And that is letting go of and recognizing that it is the sense of a person clinging to the form. There's nothing wrong with the form. There's nothing wrong with form of any of us. GP is a good form. It's very useful. The plants behind me, incredibly beautiful. The trees I'm looking at the window in front of me. Beautiful form. There's nothing wrong with the form. There's nothing wrong with you. But there's a sense of a person that believes itself to be independently functioning, that this form is who I am, it's my life, I am independent, this is my little world, and I'm going to make things the way I want them. That's the illusion. The form's there, it's fine. The desert there is there. The mirage isn't. The mirage is a projection of the mind. The form is the self. But our job, because this is just the way it's is playing out, is for us to realize that. And though in the end, that too is just a mirage. Anyway. Jennifer says, beautiful, thanks, Baba. You're very welcome. Dazo, seeing nothing but God, like Balyani said. Yes, that's the mystic. That is the mystic. That the whole mystic tradition in all of the Western traditions has been this recognition. No me, only God. I am not. Only God is. And that I, that sense of I being independent, something deeper, willingly sacrifices. That's what the cross represents. I'm willingly sacrificing this sense of being separate, there being another being, and letting go of the religious ideas that somehow I am and I'm going to join God in heaven and we're going to have a good time together. You disappear. If you want to know God, you have to disappear. That's what Papaji said to Muji, which triggered a whole string of events that led to his enlightenment. Carl says, if life will always be duality, G, then is wanting peace, love, etc., like trying to change duality and therefore a waste of time? No. The problem isn't duality. The problem is what we think about it. The problem is I want that and not that. This should be happening. This shouldn't. Oh, what's with this? Thing keeps getting caught and pulling on my headphones. That's the problem. Duality is not the problem, right? Because without that, there would be no love, right? There'd be no dating or any of that. There'd be no family. Without duality, there wouldn't be a tree. There wouldn't be kittens and babies and rainstorms and suns and galaxies. Right? What's wrong with all of that? When we want peace, means that I am letting go of the sense of myself being dual. The duality is an expression of the non-duality of the truth, of your true self. While I am identified as within the duality, I am a piece of the duality. Now there's duality over here, and I've got my opinion, and they got their opinion, and the world's doing this, and I've got to do that. I've put myself into a role that's going to have me in liking this part and hating that part. That's the sense of myself as separate. Right? I have identified with the duality rather than recognize it for what it is, the emanation of the non-dual self, the reality that is you. And so your wanting peace is the reality of you whispering in your ear that desire for peace. There's lots of folks who don't desire peace. They just want to win. There's a lot of folks who aren't interested in love. They're interested in control, domination. They're not interested in mutual benefit. They're interested in exploiting. There's plenty of that. So when grace touches you and makes you desire peace and love and equality and compassion, that is a calling from your true nature, because that's what you're really like. And so you don't have to change the duality. You only need to change your perspective of it. You only need to change how you see yourself. The world that you see is a reflection of how you see yourself. Nobody here sees the world as it is. And nobody can. We only see it through the lens of our concepts and our ideas. But if we see that all of those concepts and ideas do nothing but create division, and an essential division between myself and the reality of my own being, once I see that, I'm on the path back to that which is beyond duality. It's actually beyond non-duality, which is the real you. And now duality is not a problem that needs to be fixed. It is the very nature of the expression of that which is beyond all duality. But duality, by its nature, must depend on, have a reference point in something that isn't dual, something that does not depend on anything else, that doesn't draw its meaning from subjective experience, but right out of the heart of it. Love is the meaning and purpose of duality. So, yeah, life transforms. We say, oh, it's a tree, but what's a tree? It's made up of trillions of piece parts and stems and leaves, each made up of various kinds of chemicals and cells and all. I mean, your own body, right? In a constant transformation, right? Trillions of cells, living beings, right? Not to mention the other living beings living in the gut, right? That make all of this work. Trillions more. Where's the? It's a unity expressed into duality, isn't it? We think of it as one body because it operates as one body. But when you look closer, it's not. It's a walking zoo. It's an abundance of life forms doing what life does in a constant state of transformation. Come to know yourself as that love. And then the world that you see will emanate with that love. And it will not be intimidated by the things that are going on. Very patient, waiting, knowing full well what's happening. I can be very grateful, as we all can, for the bad experiences we had in our lives that forced us to grow. What else is going to do it? What else is going to demonstrate to us the absolute insanity of capitalism and consumerism and materialism, except to actually wake up to see the level of destruction that it does, morally, physically, environmentally. What else? And it is a stage, a step. Because what's really happening is the waking up from the ego. The sense of being a separate self. And now the duality and non-duality become one. Just a flow. HMZ edits Hi, GP. I hope you're doing well. I am, thank you. I am from Saudi Arabia. Your understanding of God seems extremely beautiful, but difficult to understand fully. Explain God like you'd explain it to a 10-year-old. Ah. Mm. Well, when you feel you're with your family, your mother and your sister and your father, hopefully, any people that you love, what do you feel? Love. That's God. That's it. That's all there is to it. And doesn't it feel horrible when you feel like anger or hatred? Why? Because you don't feel close to love. You don't feel close to God. That's it. It's nothing extreme. Nothing. There's a lot of adult things we can talk about later. But right now, just that's how close it is. Your own feelings. Closer than your own breath. Just that feeling of being alive. You know what? That's God. God's not a person. And that's, we were all taught, including our 10-year-old here, that there was me and then there was God. God isn't a person. God isn't a being out there with personality in it. God is right there in you, everywhere. It's in the air, it's in the trees, it's in space itself. God doesn't have a body like this. Doesn't have a form like this. God is indescribable, but you can feel it, can't you? You can feel the love. You can feel the energy of life. You can feel your own creative impulse. That the sheer pleasure of playing, with your toys or with your friends. That's it. We just don't think about it as somebody that we have to talk to. He's always listening. He's always hearing, because it's right here. The very space around you. Just not a thing you can see. You can only feel her. You can't see her like that. Just feel it. And can you feel her? Well, that's it. We were taught to look out there, but it's not out there. It's that feeling. That's it. That's all there is to it. You just pay attention to that. Notice, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel loving. I'm angry. This isn't fair. Okay. Let's just be with that then. Just be in that presence with what you're feeling. It's okay. Whatever you feel is okay. Because you're feeling it. Right? So don't get rid of it. Just let it unfold. See where it goes for you. And see if it doesn't bring you back to love at some point. It may take a little time. That's okay. But see if it does. One way. The way they came now. Another time I may explain it completely differently. But thank you for that wonderful question. Jennifer, you're it. That is correct. That is correct. And it's the last thing our minds want to acknowledge. Ooh, could put a little too much apple cider vinegar in it this time. It's Fatima, hello. Hi, G. Mother raised me to be a political activist since childhood. Nothing around me has ever changed. Ever since I've been on a spiritual path and spreading love from within, the political situation in my country is also improving. It's fascinating, and I do not understand it, and maybe I do not need to understand it. I totally agree with that last sentiment? No, you don't. We just follow the leadings of that love because it just feels right. You can tell this is the right path. And activism, you may be called to. Lots of people are called to activism. I've done a few marches in my day. When, and it does make a difference. But it's not the same as being that love. Gandhi said it, right? Be the peace you want to see in the world. You have to exemplify it. You have to. Otherwise, how is anybody going to see it? How's anybody going to know it? Is it just going to be opposing factions? And if it is, the one with the most power is going to dominate, right? Until power changes hands. And then they want to hold on to the power. It's always been like that. One empire conquering another. It's always been like that. But love, that kind of embodiment of putting aside our ideas as to what we think it should be, laying aside our anger and hatred of even the most cruel and greedy amongst us, and see them as being one of us. Any one of us who lived a different experience could be one of those. Anyone could. And you don't have to understand it. Knowing that it works is all you need. It is shifting me from within. My perspective is changing, so I'm seeing things differently, which means I'm exuding a completely different kind of energy, which is an energy that goes into the whole, stirred into the whole stew of human experience and human consciousness, the shared consciousness of humanity. So, don't try to figure it out. If you need to know more about it, it'll come to you. Maybe not until somebody asks you to explain it and you go, I don't know, and then you'll know. Because it's a spontaneous unfoldment. We don't need, as persons, as individuals, to understand anything. If, though, we recognize that what speaks through me is truth, then I let truth speak. I willingly give myself over to that until I'm not there at all anymore. I don't even exist. That I is gone, and the only I that's ever really been here speaking continues to speak. The I goes on to the Father. Jacqueline, these teachings seem so immediate, but then I have to continue in my everyday life where I play Jacqueline and I struggle with the balance. Also my emotional healing, delving into my trauma. Yeah, okay. They are immediate, right? And they do not ignore that. This is the path, right? At some point, we wake up out of the dream, right? That the whole thing was a dream, including the waking up was a dream. The sense that, as Nisargadatta put it, I'm the dream that can wake you up. I'm a dream you're having that can also wake you up. But wherever we happen to be within that, within our spiritual path, our spiritual maturity, we meet it where it is. We meet ourselves and others where they are. So I could say, all right, these teachings, they resonate with me. They're true. I know they're true. I can feel in my heart they're true. Right? Now, here's my life. And there's triggers, and there's stuff, and there's people, and all of these kinds of things. And I say, that's your practice. That's your sadhana. That's your guru. Right? embodying these such that you find the I that says, I have to continue in my everyday life and play Jacqueline becomes suspect. Who's that I that has to continue? Who's the I that doesn't want to? Does the self, does reality say, I don't like this, I don't want this? Right? So who's that I? Something in us, very subtly, has identified itself with an expectation. I get these non-dual teachings down, then this is all going to be, go away, it's all going to be fine. Can you see that that too is an identity we take on, which then says, well, it's not going away, I must not get it yet. I must not really understand it yet. Right? And the seeker is perpetuated. Some could be for lifetimes. Right? If we take that moment and go, okay, who's this I that has a problem with my everyday life? Who's that? Does the self, does God have a problem with everyday life? Does God ever go, oh God, I got to see those people again? It doesn't happen, you know? It doesn't happen. So is Jacqueline, is there somebody there who has to play Jacqueline? Or is Jacqueline just the self-made manifest? I struggle with the balance. Who's that I? It's a calling, right, to investigate on a deeper level than we have before, because that I has been assumed. I understand these teachings, but I've got this problem with my life. Those are senses of identity that have not been looked at. They've not been inquired into enough. We've assumed that I'm this person on the path. I'm seeking. I understand these things. They're touching my heart. Right? But there's still a person there, isn't there? There's still somebody walking that path, having these experiences. Is that one stable? Is it reliable? Is it real? Or is that too just a projection of the mind onto experience this person who doesn't like it or does like it, who had a wonderful experience but now has to deal with all this? And as far as emotional healing is concerned and delving into my trauma, capital it really takes there has to be a willingness to do that. We cannot use non-dual teaching as an end run, as a way of saying it's not real, it's all going to go away. In the meantime, we're suffering. If there's suffering there, it requires our attention. At the root of suffering is always the sense of identification with the person. Getting to there may require some emotional healing on the way. It may not. And I use emotional healing, tapping is what I use. But I use it on those that aren't ready to look at the person. It's just so far out of their experience and their context that it's just, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Yeah, it would be do more harm for me to do that with them than to just, all right, let's just work with the understanding what's happening. What are the emotions? And I teach trauma as the trauma happened not to you, but to the body-mind conditioning. It is the way the conditioning got set into place. But even there you can come to see it's not you. It doesn't reveal who you are, but it gives some space so I'm not just always the victim of my traumas, which are unconscious patterns, you know, the free state in the nervous system. But there's an active moral agent there that can really deal with that compassionately and lovingly. And what I found is if I do that well with most people, it opens up for the capacity to investigate more deeply what's really going on, what is even more fundamental than the trauma, because the trauma itself was an expression in this life of deeper stuff that has been going on through all lifetimes. Which is why in level 2 of my tapping immersion and training, I actually include a couple of months in the self-inquiry sangha. Right? You got to go through level 1 first, right? Which is simply just, it's all just about loving acceptance of oneself. That's what it is from beginning to end, really. It starts with the yoga of allowing. So, and it's worth it. It's worth it for most people to do that. I think most people these days do need to do that because it can become so confusing, and there's so many different theories out there. And most of the time, when we hear non-duality, there's this sense that none of that stuff should be addressed. Don't give it any thought, or it's gonna, you're gonna identify with it, or or don't have bad thoughts because you're gonna manifest that in your life. All of which is nonsense, or the technical term is bullshit. So, in your case, it's a mix. I mean, you are on the cusp, right? There is an open. The heart's open. The mind is open to these teachings, and they sink in. They have their effect, right? But there is also a great deal of momentum behind these events and things in our lives, and but in the process of healing it on that level, it reveals all by itself the bigger questions that are there. It just kind of happens, right? If it's done right. If it's done right. And I came to the emotional healing part quite a circuitous route, but really adopted it and came up with my approach to it. EFT came after I had already had very deep non-dual experiences, and I was very much there. So it became for me a tool by which I could address the things that were coming up that they simply weren't ready for inquiry, but were ready for healing. They were ready to let go of the kind of things that were getting in the way of their healing, which in turn just let go of the things that made the non-dual inquiry so difficult. It gets easier. So, on that note, I'll let it go. Anybody interested, just reach out to me. I can get you into the self-inquiry sangha or the EFT training and immersion, because it's both. L, hi. What to do with specific thought patterns that contain a strong sense of identity? All right. Let's slow down for a second. All right. What do I do with a specific thought pattern that contains a strong sense of identity? Now, first look, before we talk about what to do about it, let's delve into the very fact that you're aware of it. Something inside awoke to said, that thought pattern has a very strong sense of identity. Now, prior to that happening, you wouldn't have seen a specific thought pattern. You would have just been that identity. And you couldn't have seen it because it was hiding behind your eyeballs. But the path as you've been walking it has kind of exposed that. Suddenly you are seeing it. Now, two things. Thing one, put aside what do I do with it, because that's that same strong sense of identity trying to create a different sense of identity. Once it was seen, it now wants to create a different sense of identity trying to do something about it. Because what really has to happen is for you to notice that you are aware of a strong sense of identity, which is far more important and far more subtle than that specific thought pattern. Because that same strong sense of identity will then turn around, because it's a shapeshifter. Oh, can't go this way, I'm going to go this way. And now I become the one, I see that thought pattern. I'm going to do something about it. Can you see what it just did? Clever little fucker. What can I say? What can I say? Okay. So notice instead the strong sense of identity. And notice, it's not a specific thought. It's really quite amorphous. It's like silent. It's an impulse, right? And you are seeing that. Now, the seeing is all you need to do. Do not set out on any path or any technique or anything to try to overcome or transcend it. You already did. The seeing is the transcending. Trust the seeing. Allow that to expand. Oh, there it is again. There it is again. There it is again. There it is again. Feeling, oh, I got to do something about this. I'm supposed to be, I got to be more spiritual. I got to meditate. Wait a minute, slow down. All of those have that same feeling, don't they? That strong desire to identify. That is vasana. That's one of the deepest things. It goes from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. It's what makes us identify with every life we've ever had. Thinking, I am this. And then forgetting about it totally when you get to the next one. Oh, I am this. So, are you seeing that? Well, that energy or that impulse of identification that is behind it. Because if you catch that, you're really on the path. That's what most people miss, even in non-duality. They miss that. Oh, I see the thought pattern. And then immediately the sense of identity becomes someone who saw the thought pattern. The only thing that can see that thought pattern and see that it is not true is the truth. Only the self can recognize the pattern. The pattern shows up. The identity will immediately become a person who now identifies that and create another scenario that will keep you on the path. But the fact is, that person didn't recognize the thought. Only the truth recognizes the truth. Only the self sees. The realization of that thought was the self. That's the awakening. The realization that that thought was a pattern that I have been acting out, has been acting out in my life. And it is the self that sees the strong sense of identity. Because the sense of identity can't see itself. It can't smell its own breath. The ego cannot see itself. Something outside it must see it. So look for that. Contemplate that. If you're not quite sure what I said, contemplate it. Feel it. Right? Feel something pulling you towards doing something about the specific thought. And notice how it's trying to take a shape, become a person, a better person, more sattvic, more aware, maybe more compassionate and loving, but a person nonetheless. And you are not the person. The person is the mirage projected onto the self you really are. Like the mirage is a projection on the desert. The desert's there. There's nothing wrong with the desert. It's hot. It's sweaty. There's sun. I'm thirsty. Right? That's there. The mirage is not. It's projected on it. The person taking shape and then living in that shape, that's the mirage. Very good. I hope everyone paid attention to that. Because it's really the essence of it is, I don't want to call it advanced, but it is. It's the step beyond. It's what we're not catching. Even in the non-dual circles, for rarely do I see this. I wouldn't have gotten it had it not been for my own teacher. I would have missed it. I kept tripping over it. Nothing. Hey, nothing. Good to see you. One of my buddies. How to take a decision, or is decision making also be a trap of thought? How to know if decision is coming from our core? Well, first, on a very practical level, cut yourself a little slack, right? There's nothing wrong with trial and error. Did it work? See, what makes decisions difficult is simply the inner conflict that we all have between safety and freedom. There's a part of us, every decision represents an opportunity, something I can do and I can get. But every opportunity means there's going to be a change. Now, I've stepped down a level here, folks. I'm now down on the level of emotional healing and emotional freedom, and understanding the mechanism of how the mind-body works. So when a decision has to be made, I'm not going to go non-dual on this. At least not yet. Maybe later. Don't know. What's going on is that an opportunity has arisen. I want to do this. This would be really good. And it all makes sense. It's not that risky. Looks okay, right? The benefits be really good, right? Good for me, my family, won't hurt anybody, checks all the boxes. Right? But something inside says no. The safety mechanism isn't interested in opportunity, only safety. To see, these are very different functions within the nervous system. And safety says no first all the time. No, can't do it. Right? Because it doesn't want anything to change. Once your nervous system has gotten into a state of stability where it can deal with whatever happens in the environment safely, keep you there, it doesn't want that to change. Right? And it doesn't care. You can tell it all day, oh yeah, but it's great, and it's going to be really good for us. What you're dealing with is a sense in the nervous system that I'm not safe to do this. And it may be something about that triggers something specific to it, or it may just be a general resistance. To general resistance, it's very easy to bring it out of that using tapping. If it's a specific resistance, it takes a little more, but it also can be done very quickly and very deeply. But if you realize that's what's happening, having to make a decision, you'll notice your mind going back and forth, right? Freedom, safety, freedom, safety. Now, it doesn't say freedom, safety, freedom, safety. It's just, yeah, but if I do this, oh, but then what's this going to be like? Or, yeah, and sometimes there's not even thoughts on the, yeah, what is this going to be like? There's just a feeling of, wait, right? If that wasn't there, there'd be no vacillation. Every decision you've made in your life has, in fact, been a contest between safety and freedom. And the way we were all trained to deal with that is using our minds, make your little checklist, and do these things, and you either try to power your way through, but to favor one side or another. What I say is, don't favor one side or another. Be the peacemaker. Be right smack dab in the middle. Yep, I want that freedom, and I need to be safe. Okay, guys, work it out. If this is really unsafe, I'm not going to do it. Right? I may not be seeing it. Remember, there's a level of awareness in the whole body-mind mechanism that is not cognitive. It's not what you're aware of. It sees everything, but it's also interpreting everything from its perspective. Right? So if instead you go, I really want to be free. I totally own this. I want this opportunity. It would be wonderful. And I also honor the nervous system and that drive for survival and safety that is saying, no, okay, I'm going to listen. You too. Tell me where the danger is. Let's work together on this. If you don't take sides, you don't make a conflict between them, they don't have to fight. And now you can sit right in the middle and go, okay, how's this going to work? Right? Is it possible? Right? I'd pose it as that kind of question, especially I would do it during tapping. Is it possible that I could do this and be safe at the same time? Is it possible? And at first you might get, no, it's not. I think, well, let's be with it a little bit longer. And at a certain point, because you're not fighting it anymore, right, taking sides, defenses will start to come down. More cooperation will emerge. And that part of you that is convinced it's dangerous will open up a little bit to check its own assumptions. But this is happening on a level that's not here. Right? The here that has woken up to itself enough to be able to take the role of the peacemaker is kind of walking through this territory of, say, the drive for safety and the urge towards freedom are both unconscious. They're just part of the system. They're not self-discerning. They're not self-motivated. They are functions. Right? So what we bring to it, even in emotional healing, and even if I don't say a word about non-duality, is a sense of awakening to the fact that I am more than my conditioning. I am more than just these functions of the body. It happens very naturally. So that's where when you're there, you're in the place of love, of unconditional love. You really do let go of, yeah, I really do want that, but obviously not at the expense of being unsafe. I mean, if it hurts me or my family or something, I really don't want to do it, and I may not be seeing that. I'm going to listen to both sides. And if you do, at some point, the right decision, the perfectly balanced, aligned decision for this moment will appear. And you'll feel that as coming from the core. So you can't decide, is this coming from the core or not, which is simply another way your mind is trying to decide which side to favor. But if you favor one side or the other will be resistant. Right? Be disappointed, angry. Oh, you blew it again. This is a great opportunity. Why didn't you take it? That's on the freedom side. On the safety side, see, I told you. Didn't work, did it? Stupid you. That's what'll happen. Inevitably. Right? But if you're right smack dab in the middle, you're reconciling these two, right? Which means bringing them into harmony with one another, then there's nothing. If that decision is a go, all the safety, all the thing that was resisting before is now energy going towards it to make it happen safely. Right? And if the energy is a no-go, then the freedom sides go, all right, where do we go? What's next? Right? And the conflict's gone. That's what's important. So then the core reveals itself in this moment, right? Because the core is always relative to the moment. It's not, it's not grabbing on to stuff. The core is the peacemaker that doesn't care which way it goes. That's the core. The core doesn't care whether it makes a decision or not. Stay, go, who cares? I'm fine just as I am. That's the core. That's the true self-acceptance and love. So, nothing? How's that for you? Hello, Patricia in Los Angeles. So good to see you. Jennifer said, all those stages were very good when understanding came in. It's like a magic puzzle coming together and then drops off. Yeah. The awakening to the self makes everything understandable. It cannot be understood from your mind. which is limited in nature, there's that chord again, which is limited in nature, and always has to take a side because it cannot do that. Your mind, or the ego mind, which is the third chakra actually, cannot do that. It's not self-aware either. You are the consciousness which emerges in the heart. That's what the heart represents. Not the physical heart or a spiritual heart or even a spinning vortex of energy. It's a metaphor for the truth of you, the essence of you, the depth of you, the reality of you. Okay? And that feels like just magic, and it seems to all be understood. Right? Understood to who? The understanding isn't coming, here's God with all the understanding and handing it to you. You're disappearing, and the standing one is there. And that's what we experience as I understand now. Are you following that? Oh God, so important. Yes, says L, and then says, regular thoughts seem easy, but it's the deep-rooted thought patterns that contain the most gravity. Yes. And yes. And the reason they do is simply because that sense of impulse, that silent impulse to identify, has not yet been seen. That's why they have the most gravity. Once they do, that is seen, right, and you really begin to let your inquiry go there, then the whole game changes. Even the deep stuff is just, oh yeah, just another thought pattern. But our long history of identification with those thought patterns gives them a momentum, right, that what we do mostly is try to create another sense of identity that fights with them. Always loses. I got it wrong, I got to do it again. Until the deeper awakening takes place. Oh, wait a minute. What is this silent, invisible, impalpable impulse to identify? This force that seems to take one form after another. Yeah, that's what in Hindu they refer to as Maya, the great the great illusion. That's Maya. That shapeshifter. Catch that? Yes, that's the doorway. Nothing says thank you, GP. Oh, thank you. You're very welcome. Very welcome. Sai Ganesh, how to awaken the self if that is awakened already? Namaste from India. Well, that's kind of what we're here to do, isn't it? To resolve what's a total puzzle to the mind, because how do I awake what's already awake? Right? Nisargadatta, as Nisargadatta put it, having never left the house, you're asking for the way home. This is the puzzle. And I don't know exactly where you are at this, but I'm going to throw this out here. I'm just going to try to feel into this and see what the best answer is for you. The awakening. Even if had little ones, everyone here has had a little one at least, or they wouldn't be here. Right? It may not have been an event, I felt one with everything or anything like that. It may simply have been your interest got drawn here. Things just seemed to make sense and you didn't know why, or something in your heart resonated with him and you don't even know why, but you're drawn to it. It can be that. Okay. Now, if you see that everything perceived, however it's perceived, in any experience, be it thought, emotion, sensation, experience that we have every day, whatever is perceived is phenomenal. It's coming and going all the time. And then you consider, can the perceiver of that then be perceived? Well, it's logically obvious, at least, that whatever I am perceiving is me perceiving something else. So if I'm trying to perceive myself, I won't be able to do it. I can't step outside of myself and look back. There I am, like I can with anything else in the universe. Which means that the perceiver cannot be perceived. So, and this isn't weird, right? Your eye can't see itself, right? Nobody knows what the back of their head looks like. Your finger can't touch itself. A knife can't cut itself. This is a common experience because it's one. So you're one. You're not two that can split off and take a look. So I cannot perceive myself. How do I then know myself? It has to be a different way of knowing it. In India, it's referred to as Vedanta, or Advaita Vedanta. It's a different way of knowing. It's not one thing knowing another. It's not the subject-object relationship, which is what the whole world and materialism is all based on. It's not that. So now, I'm perceiving all of this. To answer your question specifically, I could go into the other side of it. I'll just stay on this side. That perceiving is always happening, no matter what. Even the thought, I'm not awake, is perceived, isn't it? Even if you had an enormous awakening experience, they write a book about it, it would still be an event that was perceived, wouldn't it? So, the experience of awakening is only a manifestation of the eternally awake one that never went to sleep in the first place. The self is always self-realized. If it wasn't, there would be a time where then self-realization is nonsense. It's like everything else. It's just going to come and go. Why pursue it? Who cares? It's going to be one other thing I get and lose. Enough of that. But if everything perceived is phenomenal, that is just passing, it's appearance, then the one perceiving it is not phenomenal, is not changing, is not coming and going, which is your experience, right? That is your experience. Everything comes and goes, and I'm still here. And the perceiving is consistent. That's the awakening. That is the awakened one. And when that dawns within the dreaming one disappears, and there's an experience, a great experience of enlightenment, it will be looked on as yet another image, another phenomena in the dream of the eternally awakened. The eternally awake, which is what Buddha means. It means the awake one. Nothing's been attained, nothing's been lost. See, there is no enlightenment in reality. Because if there was an enlightenment event, it would be just another event. So you are already that. Now, when I say that, immediately your mind will jump in with the sense of eyes. I am already that. That I is mixed. Stay with it. Even that is perceived, isn't it? If you stay with that, noticing that, watching that, being with that, watching for the impulse, the silent impulses to identify and take shape. Keep an eye on that. Keep coming back to this place. You don't even have to think I'm already awake. Just keep coming back to the place that is perceiving, because that is the awake place. That is the one who's always awake. And at some point, you're going to realize that you are that one, and you've never been this one here. And that's what maybe recognized as by others as the sage. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. You've always been the perceiver. The perceiver can't be known. So nothing that appears to the perceiver is the perceiver. And the perceiver cannot be conceived of. Vedanta, end of knowledge. Is that help, Sai? Where in India are you? I've only been to Rishikesh, and it wasn't with the Beatles. That was a very long time ago. Not a fan of their guru, of course. They weren't either after a while. But, thanks, Eat GP says, "Oh, you're very welcome, Jennifer." Well, one day, Baba, we can sit and chat. Kiddos interrupt often. They are still little, and request attention often when I'm in a class. This could be how it's perceived and story live created around class. It's okay. It's okay. Join me in one of the classes, right? The tapping class or something. Right? One of the guys who's been in all of them, he's been a student of mine for a while. I'll see the little one sitting on his lap. they'll come and they'll be there. And his second one he was born, he was on retreat with me. It was an online retreat, and after he and his wife who gave birth saw the baby, he brought it to the retreat. Right there in the room. He got on his phone, and it was right there when he was born. It was really quite a treat. So don't let it stop you. Even if they're very, very, very little. You can never lose anything by just being fully present. I got to be present with my little one and present at the class. Can I do the same? Try it. See what happens. I'm sure there are times in there where there will be an opportunity to sit with you, right? as you desire. Maybe with or without a little one on your lap. L says, "What's your opinion on intuition?" Intuition is a word the mind gave to insight coming directly from the self, which knows all things. We experience it kind of miraculously because we're so used to thinking about things and coming to conclusions. But when suddenly something just, oh yeah, and it comes out of nowhere, we're like, oh, it's miraculous. Well, actually, that's the reality. It happens all the time. Right? Having a conversation with somebody, you're explaining something you're really excited about, and you say, and then it was like, and you're like looking for a word, right? And then the word comes, intuition. Right? What are you doing? You're staring into a blank, empty space, and out of it comes the right thing. Or sometimes we'll say something, oh no, that's not quite right. That's not what I meant. It was like, oh yeah, this. Self-correcting, and like, where's that coming from? Right? We call these things miraculous because to our normal way of thinking, they are. I'm used to always reasoning things out and but the greatest scientists, very meticulous, Einstein, just maths, it's intuition. He had a dream of riding on a light beam, turning on a flashlight, and the light didn't come out, right? Right? That's where the general theory of relativity came from. The specific, I think it was the specific theory of relativity came from. You know, Albert riding on a light wave. Right? Lots of intuition. Right? It's everywhere. It's driven everything. We think of it as a personal possession, my intuition, rather than what it actually is revelation of the infinite mind, which brought the circumstances in the first place for the intuition to appear. The circumstances in which it appeared were also part of that. It's all been orchestrated by that. And it always has been. Our minds just keep insisting that that there's somebody doing it. And there isn't, right? The acrobats perform, and the circus clowns come out and take a bow. That's the I, the ego I, trying to claim what it never did. Intuition is just one way in which that appears. Inspiration. How do you explain somebody like a Mozart, 3 years old, writing his first sonata, or his first sonata, or 7 writing his first opera? They look for it in the brain, connections and things like that, and they'll probably find that those doses of intelligence appearing will in fact wire the brain. The brain will respond in kind. It's like a radio adjusting to the music. It automatically, this is rock, so we're going to EQ it this way, right? This is classical music, so we have to do it, and we have to do it in this way. It's like kind of a radio, an MP3 player that automatically adjusts the presentation according to the content. But it's all after the fact. Let's see. Chris Bova. Chris, I think you might be new. I had about 3 months of being able to access it from Silva Ultramind, went down a dark rabbit hole, and received military interference in the form of electronic sonic torture. Wow. I got enough during that time to use what was left of my intuitive ability to figure out the real issue that plagues humanity through geometry that connects the dots. Well, the geometry that connects the dots is a manifestation, a reflection of it. It isn't what's actually connecting the dots. And just notice that the source of your intuitive ability isn't in the brain. It isn't in the body. Now, I'm making that a statement. I don't want you to believe that. I want you to inquire into that. To go, this is still there. And maybe it's all there, but because of this, I just feel cut off from it. And maybe it's actually as functional as it always was, because it's not dependent upon the physical structures and the stuff that was done. It's like the fellow Evan Alexander, a very strict materialist, a neurosurgeon who did not believe in any of this stuff, had a near-death experience. And what was unique about his near-death experience is what caused his death was a virus that very quickly completely destroyed the neocortex. Everything that makes us human. Which meant he was incapable of thinking, of visualizing, of nothing. There was no sense of even an I there. And during that time, he had this incredible experience that he writes about in the book. I think it's called Proof of Heaven. And what happened afterwards was equally remarkable. And this is legitimate. It was written up in the New England Journal of Medicine, the official journal of all these kinds of things, by the doctors who were attending his case, that within 6 months, the entire neocortex had grown back. It had actually overridden the whole thing and recreated the brain. This is a documented fact. What did that? What did that? Obviously not something in the brain. It was gone. It was destroyed. He got back all of his functions. Within a few days, he could actually talk, which shouldn't have been happening. He could think. Right? Oh, within 6 months, he was completely himself again. It was all completely restored. Now, within our material model of things, we cannot understand that. The doctors that even wrote it up said, we don't get it. We have to give some kind of cause. Something about his near-death experience made this happen. We are completely... And of course they're going to be at a loss. They're looking for a material cause. They're trying to connect these dots. There isn't a material cause. And that's why it works. And there never has been. You are the pure consciousness that is animating this body. And therefore can completely restore it. Or doesn't even need to use it. And none of your capacity is affected. So use that intuitive ability to probe even deeper. Even beyond all the appearances. Even beyond the geometry. Because you're looking at the geometry. Geometry doesn't exist independently of our conceiving of it. So what's there? It's even deeper than that. That's the real you. And that's where the source of all of this, all of the intuition came from. And that's what can restore it to its fullness that you're used to. That you had access to before. Well, thank you for that, Chris. I hope that helps. Hi, from South India. Oh, South India. Help me, sir. I am the perceiver which perceives all these perceptions. Yes, which cannot itself be perceived. Just use that as a contemplation. Don't settle for the logical conclusion of it, because obviously there is a logical conclusion, right? You can say, oh, God, well, then obviously I can't be. That's a start, but it's still conceptual. It's got to combust into spirit, as the way Moody would put it. Jennifer, 7 and 9, no more sitting. Oh, how beautiful. You're so right. Yeah, that's what race, not the apex intelligence, geometry, is total geometry, flaw, what? Please tell me what function the geometry serves. There's a lot of explanations about life. Here's the simplest thing I can say. And I'm not discounting any of it, right? I'm not saying, it's wrong, it's nonsense or anything. I don't, all of it matters. All of it's part of the story. Everything you learn along your path is part of your path. I want to point to the ultimate path, and it's very, very simple. Just for a moment, everybody do this. It's a great, simple little exercise to do. Just set aside everything you know. As if you don't know anything at all. Just throw it out. Throw out all the desire. Throw it, set aside. Right? It's okay. You can bring it back anytime you want. But just for a moment. Instead of trying to figure something out, let go of the figuring anything out at all. Just, maybe our human intelligence is enough to be able to do it. Maybe not. But just set it aside. We'll get back to it later. I'm not ignoring it, not making it unimportant. Just set it aside. All of our past experiences, everything that's happened to traumas, the childhood stuff, all of it. Just set it aside. I know it's active there, there's thoughts and the like, but just for a moment, choose consciously to not engage with them. Just for now, right? It's like when you go into the mandir, you don't have to listen to a teacher, you take off your shoes. In many traditions, you go into church, you take off your shoes. I'm just, take off your shoes. Take off all your mental knowledge for now. It's there when you need it. Our beliefs, our aspirations. And then just be present with what's left. Notice there's something you can't put aside. Even if you're not completely successful with thoughts of them, just imagine, okay, possible to put absolutely everything aside. There was no thoughts, no vision of the future, no aspiration, no memories, nothing. Just empty, totally empty. What would still be there? You would still be there. This is you without any description, without any beliefs, without any conditioning or traumas or history. This is you without any figuring of anything out. And the geometry is set to the side. Useful, but it's not you. You can't put you aside. This is the you that's always there. All of this other stuff, as good as it is, will come and go. It'll develop. It'll transform. It may last a year, may last 100 years, maybe 1,000 years. There are some practices that have gone on for thousands of years. But they had a beginning and they will have an end. And you will be there when they begin and when they end. Here is what to ask. Who am I? Who am I that is here? Set that aside too, Chris. I'm not denying it. Matter of fact, there was a time when I go off on this. I'm not denying it. I'm inviting you to look at something deeper. Something that will empower us to not just make a different phase of humanity that's going to suffer the same fate. And just invite into the possibility of knowing yourself as you actually are. Just try. Just ask everybody to try to do that. And what do you experience? No, you didn't. Right? It happened. It happened to you. Right? What I'm asking you to do is to say, put aside the Jesus complex. I was here before that happened. And when it ends, I will still be here. So it's not essentially who I am. That's reasonable. It's not essentially, it came. Right? Came upon me. Against my will, even. Like old age and death. It does. Is that essentially who I am? Because if it was, when it leaves, I'd be gone. And so many things in my life, your life, everyone's life has come and gone, and you're still here. All I can do is draw our attention to that and to say, look, that's important. Everything else in your life has come and gone. This hasn't. Is it worth looking at that? Looking at it closely. It doesn't deny anything else. I've got other stuff I have to do. There's people have lives, children to raise, educations and jobs and all sorts of things. But isn't this worth looking at the one thing that has never changed, and it happens to be you. You without anything additional added. You without even the conditioning that has driven our lives. In all lives. We just give that some props. Just ask. That's what I ask. I do that. 5 minutes. Taking that about now. 5 minutes. Yeah, I can't believe I'm still here. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Wow, I'm still here. All the shit I did, went through, experienced, I'm still here. Who is this? So whoever it is really, really resilient. Yeah. 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 What could be a bigger secret than this? It's a secret nobody's even looking for. Most people go, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so what? Move on, right? No, wait. Sometimes somebody shows up or something happens and just like, wait a minute. Something inside us wakes up and says, wow, this is important. I'm the only thing that hasn't changed. Who am I? What I liked was changed. How I looked was changed. The things I did changed. Things I care about, my beliefs changed. My attitudes changed. Everything changed. What am I? Because I was there the entire time. Who am I then? This is the crux of the invitation to this non-dual spiritual path, which I reiterate over and over is not a denial of any other path. All part of the deal. But when someone gets called or stumbles upon this path, there's something here. There's something here that's different. For me personally, I found that it was the final path. So, okay, everybody. That's it. Take all your stuff back. Conditioning, trauma, take it all back. But when you do that, when you practice that on your own, whenever you want, if you so desire, just notice that in that place, is there any suffering there? When all of this is just set aside, not ignored, but just set to the side, is there suffering there? Perhaps that's a clue and an inspiration to continue to visit there. Chris said, I was asking myself after meditation, who are you? I realized how much more than I ever imagined than sound. It's okay. It's okay. Stay with the realization. Yeah. Don't fight the sound. Yeah. Don't fight the sound. I have many friends, young musicians doing rock music. I still have a little ringing in my ear. It's not severe, but I have some friends of mine that it's really severe. Quite a task to try to come to terms with that. Because you are way more than that sound. Continue with the inquiry. It will pay off. But the who am I, the who are you, or who am I, You have to set aside everything you think you are, all the I thoughts. This isn't a better version of you. It is the infinite you, of which there are no versions. It needs no versions. The only thing that interferes with us realizing that is the I we think we are. That is what gets, inquired into. So, Savvy, hi G, and chat. Better late than never. For you? Yes, good. I'm just always happy to have you here. Spontaneous, beautiful, and so lovely. Don't let it just be lovely, okay? Yeah. These meditations can give us a respite, a relief, and that sort of thing. But please, that's not what they're for. It's not just to have a good experience. It's to awaken from all experiences. Final path. Yes, for me. For me. Turned my ability of my house radically, never breaking aim. 2 weeks after it started. Yes. So for me, it was finding that everything that I did or tried ultimately didn't satisfy my desire for peace. And one day I randomly came a video by Muji, and I've been here ever since. Yes, well, Muji is my teacher. Little did I know when I sat in front of him, at his feet, 8 years ago, a very small meeting. I was on the AV team for satsangs at Rishikesh, and asked him to be my teacher. He said yes. I had no idea what that meant. It took me a while to really be a student. I didn't realize I had just stuck my head in the lion's mouth, and there was no escape. Thank God. Thank God. Yeah. The grace of the Guru. At Lasius, they say that there's a difference between the I am, love, feminine, and the emptiness, awareness, masculine. To distinguish between these two for the sake of practice, which to abide in. You are both and neither, right? You're beyond both, the feminine and the masculine. It's a way in which it's taught, so we can distinguish between compassion and wisdom. And in everyday life, we need both, don't we? And sometimes a circumstance requires a wisdom that just kind of holds back and waits or watches or acts. And sometimes it's a compassion that's just there and present. And they flow. Right? As Nisargadatta put it, to know that you are emptiness, to know that you are nothing is wisdom. To know you are everything is love. Between these two, my life flows. So there's no point. What does this moment need? Right? And the only practice you need is to go back to yourself without referring to anything other than your own presence. Because that is the emptiness that is fullness, and it is love. It is how did Nisargadatta put it? Above the unity of being, there's the union. So you don't need to practice one another, because they are you. You simply know you. Everything that appears to you, every I, even the I am or the emptiness, are seen by you, which is beyond all of it. You're simply seeing that every appearance that is perceived cannot be me, because I am seeing it. Beautiful, wonderful, useful, helpful. But who am I that is aware of it? Who is it that is aware of it? What is it that's aware of everything, but cannot be perceived. And isn't it you that are perceiving? Is that different? Are you and that which perceives all different? Now, this has to be pondered, taken into the heart, combusted into spirit, because because the mind will take it. Oh yeah, I am that. Okay, I'm the self, right? And get really arrogant about it, right? No, you don't know that. This is the true teaching, and oh God, I've experienced it. I've gotten comments about it. So, so you don't abide anywhere. They're both there, and they're both different names for different aspects of the same thing. It doesn't matter which way you look at the diamond, you're looking at the diamond, right? Whether it be the I am, the feminine energy, the pure compassion and love and nurturing, or it's the emptiness, the pure awareness, the precision. They're both you. They're different aspects of you at any given moment. So you abide right dead center, or take your pick, right in the middle, or everywhere. Non-duality is not a teaching. I don't teach. I look. I invite you to look. I help you look at things. Out of that can come some practices that can be useful for a while. There is no practice that's permanent. But non-duality isn't a practice. This teaching is not a teaching. It's not something you learn. It's an invitation. Look. Look for yourself. I invited people to look. If you set all these aside, isn't there something still there? Yeah. Me. Now that's not a teaching. Make it up. It's not a belief, right? It's not a theory or philosophy or a theology. Look for yourself. What are you seeing? Oh, yeah, I'm there. That's it. Non-duality is not a practice. It's not a teaching. It's not a theory. It's not a belief system. It's just look. If there's anything to it other than that, it's just how to look in the best way and get guided in the looking. And so that you come to trust what you see, even though it contradicts everything you've been taught. Dazo, if I step away, something always calls me back. Yeah, man, it's too late, buddy. I don't know, male or female. It's too late, right? There's a point of no return at which you simply cannot go back. Yeah, you turn around, it's like like Hansel and Gretel leaving breadcrumbs, and they turn around, they're all gone, the birds have eaten them. There's no way back. You put your head in the lion's mouth. There's no escape. Thank God. Always good to see you too. Thank you, Savvy. Thank you, G, for sharing. What a pleasure to listen. Must relinquish this again. Must relish to this again. Excellent. Love you, G. Love you too, Mary. Something I couldn't find any hit with the sound. I said that kills you. Making kids violent. I don't know about all that, Chris. I don't know about all that. Yes. Yeah. This is the evil in the world, right? Over which you and I are powerless, personally. All I can say is, look here. You will find your power. And you'll go beyond this. Right? All the stuff that's happening. Yeah, it's horrible. And it's glossed over by media and made to look pretty and the like. Right? But simply recognizing that isn't going to do anything about it. A new way of being must emerge. In order, you cannot get rid of the system. It has to be replaced by something better. have to represent what's better. And for me, this is it. This is it. It's the culmination. It's where all spiritual paths lead. I'm overwhelmed with gratitude and awe and even disbelief in this lifetime. It's been given to me. And to anybody who wants it, anybody who's drawn to it. And believe it or not, you found your way here because something inside of you needed to hear this. Must re-listen, says Mary. Lovely, said Joseph. Yeah, you're very welcome, everybody. Jay, thank you for G. Also, the video posted in Telegram yesterday. Hope now. Oh dear, no. I'm tempted to show this. My wife. I'm glad you put the laughing person there. Oh God, no. Oh God. God, no. Everywhere you go, you are there. Thank you, G. Super useful. I pray to be able to stay with the pointers and just look as you say. Beautiful. Yes, please do. That's all it takes. It's my only job. They say in Zen, spent my whole life selling water standing by a river. You can't unsee the truth once you've seen it. Yes. The serum has been injected. Okay? There's nothing you can do about it. It will work, but it's going to work its time, not ours. We're responding to grace. That's all I can say. It works at its own pace, revealing everything at exactly the right step for you. Don't be in a hurry. I don't think I haven't got it yet, because you couldn't have gotten it in the first place. Grace brought you here, showed it to you. It hit home, and that grace has been doing it ever since. Thank you as always, GP. It's always wonderful to hear your words. You're so welcome. No turning back is right, nor would I want to. Sorry, just venting. It's okay, Chris. You are more than welcome and loved here. Yeah. And yeah. I was the black sheep. I got exploited, then pushed aside. Well, if that geometry means something to you, well, then take it, but don't cling to it. That's all I'm asking. Don't cling to it. You are bigger and more important than the things you discover. Right? And so, is it bringing, I have a very simple litmus test. Is it bringing an end to my suffering? Right? Is it giving me a wisdom and compassion to look on others? Right? Is it giving me a wisdom that I see things as they are? I'm not blind to the nonsense, but the compassion that lets me be with it rather than just fight or rail against it. Can I find myself in all of this? Can I find a place of peace within myself? Can I be free, right, to be myself? Well, the only thing that can end suffering is to know who you are. This may help, but until you know who you are, till you know that one that is there, when even the geometry is gone, suffering will continue. Suffering is a result of thinking, believing yourself to be somebody you're not. That's its source. And only coming to understand who you are remedies that. Without that, suffering will continue. Because there will always be a sense of self there, trying to make things better, not recognizing that it is the problem. So, I hope you come back. I really do. Just take it, think about, ponder what I said, what I've said. Everybody. And that little exercise. How did it take? 5-6 minutes? But yeah. So until next time, dear friends, you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, a wonderful life, and remember who you are. Remember who you are. That is the answer. You are the answer to it all. Love to you all.